finished his course.
Yes, he's testing today, I think.
No,
Who-
no, Romaine is the one that was from down in Oak Harbor. He just finished his
Yeah,
course last night.
yeah. So he'll be scheduling his exam. I have
Yeah.
somebody taking their test today, I believe. Oh, I think it may be Levi. Levi's testing today.
Levi and Helena is testing on the 21st.
Oh, they're okay. They're on the 21st. Thank you.
Holy
Yep.
Thank you
cow,
for
how
just
many
thinking.
people you got coming in there, Todd?
Oh, I
You,
got total of what, 7.
Dang!
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, we're going to get started here at 8:33. We'll jump in. I always give it about a 3-minute grace period.
I got Celine's gonna come talk to one person today with me, the one that's down in Seattle. So I got 2 people coming in today, and I got 2 people tomorrow.
Yep, yep. That's fantastic. And I've got 2 other people coming in tonight at about 5, a husband and wife team.
Ooh,
All right.
right on.
Yeah.
We're going to own Snohomish County and King.
Oh, the word's on the street, man. The word is on the street. Oh, well, look at that. It's time to go. All right. So today we're going to be talking about a neurolinguistic technique called sensory preferencing. Sensory preferencing. And it's okay to take some notes if you want. If we can just store this in your memory, that's fantastic as well. So we're going to be going over some live demonstrations of this technique, sensory preferencing. To start with, let's just get a basic understanding that this technique can be used in all stages of the sale, from the greeting to the introduction to discovery to creating a need to solving the need to closing to handling objections and then to closing, because we close, we handle objections, and we close. So it works in all fashions. We are communicating in a dominant sensory preference all the time, verbally and non-verbally. 57% of our communication is nonverbal. So it takes a little bit of practice to get this technique. I learned this technique early in my coaching, and I've been using it ever since to enhance my presentations, to enhance my ability to get into rapport with anybody in 0 to 60 seconds. And it's like having a tool on a job site. You have your tool chest of skills and you're not using all your tools all the time. For example, if I'm driving down the freeway, okay, it's me on the both hands on the steering wheel, okay, cell phones on the seat, okay, I'm not using this skill. However, when I think about it, I walk into a room. If I want to see where I'm going and it's dark, I will turn on the light. That light gives me permission to move about without having to stumble, trip, and fall. So this technique is like turning on the light in the room. It is a skill that you don't have to use all the time, but when you think about it and you begin to apply it, you're going to see incredible results right in front of your eyes. Take, for example, when I first learned this technique, it's like learning a new language. It's surrounding yourself, it's not new words, but it's just understanding how people are communicating in such a way that you can make a bigger impact to their lives to help them achieve their wants, their needs, and their desires. So it took me a little bit of understanding. It took me a little bit of practice, and then soon I was doing this unconsciously, because at the beginning you are consciously incompetent. Okay. You want to exercise something. It's like cold calling. Okay. At first, you're going to suck at it. Okay. And then you become consciously competent. Okay. You know what you're doing and you're getting better. Then you become unconsciously competent, and then you're not even having to think about it anymore, and you are exercising this new skill. So it takes a little bit of time for it to develop. It took me about 30 days. I was closing 55 57% of my listing appointments. I was a listing broker. And my coach is like, Todd, you're better than this. Why are you giving away business to everyone else? I'm like, I don't know. Okay. He said, I'm going to turn you on to this technique called sensory preferencing because I think that's where your issue is. And okay, so I learned the technique and began to practice it, and I sucked at it in the beginning, but I became very good at it, and it actually led me to become a master practitioner into neurolinguistic programming. So this is what really got me super excited about this other form of communication, the nonverbal communication, which is 57% of how we all communicate. And the reasons why sometimes we get into a group of people or with a small group of people or just the other individual, and sometimes we feel immediately connected with them. Other times we want to get connected, but we feel that there's a barrier that's stopping this connection from happening for some reason other than we just don't understand. Sensory preferencing knocks down those walls, removes those barriers, and allows you to exercise your ability to persuade, influence, and motivate both verbally and non-verbally to anyone that you choose to use this skill with. Your family, your friends, your relatives, your husbands, your wives, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, everybody. You are communicating with everybody, and your degree of influence and persuasion with others will help you increase what it is that you want. Not only that, it helps you fine tune how you communicate with yourself in regards to how you formulate your affirmations, both verbally and non-verbally. All right. So first, you want to identify what your dominant sensory preferences are. So let's start with this. 55% of people are visually dominant. They're visuals, highly visual. They tell their life experiences in a temporal sense, meaning past, present, and future. They're going to describe their experience, past, present, and future, in a more of a visual preference. Okay? Both verbally, with words that are visual, look, examine, see, and they're going to also express their experiences, past, present, future, with hand gestures, eye movements, and head nods. That's the nonverbal communication. Okay? Just think of it this way. Okay? So the other 30%, of the population are dominant with kinesthetic, meaning emotionally based. Kinesthetic is another word for emotion. So 30% are kinesthetically dominant in their experiences. So they're going to describe their experiences, past, present, and future, in more of a touch, feel, form, and fashion. All right. So once we are able, now here's verbal. Once we're able to get in touch and put our hands around what really matters, you'll be able to move forward in a significant way that will help you get and achieve the things that you want in life. Okay, that's very kinesthetic. And if you don't use kinesthetic words, you're going to use kinesthetic gestures. Okay, 57% of how we communicate, again, is non-verbal. So really, if you want to put the weight on something, it's not the words you say, it's how you say the words. All right. So perhaps it's like, when we begin to think about what it is that we want, we'll be able to understand in a significant way what's important. Okay. I was using hand gestures. I didn't use any kinesthetic words. I was using hand gestures and nonverbal communication. So kinesthetic individuals will use hand gestures that are below the shoulders, okay, versus a visual kinesthetic or a visual dominant visual person will use hand gestures that are above the eyebrows. Okay, dominant visual people will use head nods that go up towards the sky. Okay, they'll use their eye movements, okay, that go up. And emotional kinesthetic people do everything that is moving down. So their head movements will go down their eye movements, if they're not using their head, if they're just using their eyes, you'll see people's eyes move a lot. And when people's eyes move, what they're doing, they're communicating with you in a subconscious, unconscious level. It is incredible how much information your clients are giving you face to face. Now, over the phone, I get it. It's a little bit more difficult because all you have is the words. But over the phone, you can also sometimes dial in a little bit about their dominant sensory preferences by the rate of speech. Kinesthetic, now it's not for everybody, okay, but it doesn't fall, everyone doesn't fall in a certain path, but the majority of people that are kinesthetic, that are, the 30% that are kinesthetic, I'm going to admit somebody, what they're doing is they're going to be having a slower rate of speech, okay? Visual dominant sensory individuals that are visual, 55%, they'll have a faster rate of speech. Now, that doesn't mean somebody who is kinesthetic doesn't speak fast, and it doesn't mean that somebody who is dominantly visual doesn't speak slow. I don't want to say that. However, when you're on the phone, those are certain things that are nonverbal, although it is verbal, that they don't understand what it is that they're doing when they're talking really fast, or when they are dialing it back and talking with a slower rate of speech. So 55% of people are visual, meaning hand gestures, non-verbally. Hand gestures are going to be above the eyebrows. Their head movements are going to be up in nature, and their eye movements will be up in nature. Think of the sky. This is what my coach told me when I was learning this information. Everything that goes up, think of looking in the sky, visual. Everything that goes down, think of the heart, feeling, okay? Think of the heart and feeling. That is going to be kinesthetic, okay, non-verbally speaking. Now we have both verbal and non-verbal communication for visual and kinesthetic. The last part, 15% of the people are going to be auditory. Their dominant sensory preference will be auditory, meaning same with the visual and kinesthetic, is that they're going to express their experiences in a temporal fashion, meaning their stories about the past, their stories about the present, their stories about the future in an auditory sense, and a dominant sensory preference regarding auditory. Listen, talk, okay, discuss, speak. And they're going to be using hand gestures that would be between the shoulders and the ears and the eyes, somewhere around here. They're going to be using these hand gestures, okay? And they're going to be, head movements will be side to side, okay? Their eye movements will go from side to side, okay? This is really easy to figure out, but it takes practice. When you start to read people's nonverbal communication, because what they're saying nonverbally carries more weight than they say verbally, okay? It's like somebody once told me at one point in time, your actions speak so loud I can't hear a word you're saying. Oh, that's tough. All right. So once I began to get this and understand this other layer of communication and understand, believe it or not, not everyone is like me. I mean, that's weird. Okay. Because I'm highly visual. I was closing 57% of my listing appointments. No kidding. These sellers that were visual, we were seeing eye to eye. They could see the same playing field that I was displaying to them. We were high-fiving way up here, okay? The kinesthetic people I was not connecting with. I was not connecting with the kinesthetics because my whole presentation was visual, okay? My whole presentation was visual. My coach said, start calling back to people you're not getting these listings from. I'd call them back and they'd say, yeah, Todd, you're great. You shared, you're funny, really motivated, enthusiastic, blah, 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 blah. But we connected with so-and-so. We just felt more connected with so-and-so, so we made our decision to go with them. And I couldn't wrap my head around what's this connection that they're talking about. What's this connection all about? Because I showed them all the numbers. I showed them what we're going to do, and it all looked good, but they didn't go with me. And then my coach slapped me like that, virtually. But I felt it literally. I'm like, whoa. I need to enhance my presentations and cater to the individuals that demonstrate verbally and non-verbally kinesthetic. Slow my roll down a little bit. Connect with them. Not everyone's going to see it. Some people need to feel it before they see it. Some people just need to feel it totally. Even if it doesn't look right, it's all about the feeling. And once that took place, and once I began to understand that I could cue in and watch people and listen to people, it made a world of difference. My closing ratio the next following 3 months jumped to 76 to 77% because I was not leaving out. Now, it felt completely unnatural. Okay. I just want to let you know this. It feels unnatural to present outside of your dominant sensory preference. Oh, okay. However, it felt completely natural to catch those checks at closing. That felt good. And so, what is it? It's about service. It's about getting out of yourself, removing yourself from the situation, and putting yourself in a position where you can be of higher and better service to cater to the needs of the individual that is requesting some help in a real estate transaction. And by learning this form of communication, you can be of better service. And not only does this apply to your customer base and your clients and your prospects and leads, it has everything to do with your communication at home as well, with your spouses, with your boyfriends, girlfriends, fiancés, your children, your parents, your aunts, uncles, grandparents. In fact, everything that you communicate with, in addition to the internal dialogue you have with yourself. So understanding what your dominant sensory preference is also assists you in the formation of your self-talk and your affirmations. When I do my affirmations, I can see myself. I use strong visualizations. Other people who happen to be more kinesthetic have to absorb the feeling to get into that affirmation. Those that are auditory, okay, will need to speak and look and hear themselves having these experiences. So when it comes to connecting with individuals and then making these types of presentations, in the beginning, you're not going to have a really solid foundation in order to make your presentations in one of these three forms, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So you'll want to use an open loop, a repeating loop of all three preferences, with the majority of it being obviously visual. So it may sound something like this, Mr. Scott, thanks for taking a look at the information I sent over. I hope you're able to get a good feeling about what it is that we want to accomplish. And I'd love to discuss more of this information with you so we can obviously create an image about your future that you would like to get a hold of. And if that's okay, let's go ahead and continue this conversation. So I'm just using all three in the combination. I'm just using all three. It takes and requires practice in order to do so. And it's so interesting. Now that I've unveiled it to you or reminded you of this information, because it's not my information. I was taught this, and so it's I don't own it. I just own the fact that I can use it, and then I own the fact that I can share it, but I didn't create it. Now that you have a taste and a flavor for this, your exercise would be able to go through this week and start to think about, because you're going to have to think about it before you do it. Okay, what you perceive you can achieve, and so you have to think about how other people are speaking. You have to listen to the words, and then watch their nonverbal communication. This is the fun. At least for me, it's really fun to watch people communicate. And you'll see their heads, and you, God, there's so much to this. You'll watch their head movements go up and down. You'll see a hand gesture over here. Perhaps you'll see two hand gestures. You'll ask a closing question. And, this could be anything. Okay, I asked Rochelle, where would you like to go to dinner tonight? Easy question, right? Easy question. Where would you like to go to dinner tonight? And she immediately goes, well, I'm not sure. I will say, well, what would you feel like? How about that? I'm connecting. She just told me in a non-verbal communication, it's about a feeling. Now, if I were to ask Rochelle, where'd you like to go to dinner tonight, honey? She looks up. I'll say, what looks good to you? Where would you like to go? What looks good? What looks good tonight? Okay. What if I ask her, Rochelle, honey, where would you like to go to dinner tonight? And she's like, well, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure yet. And I go, well, let's talk about it. Let's discuss what are you talking to yourself about? I'm telling you, it is absolutely amazing when you begin to crack open this whole other level of communication. You're going to be able to break through some barriers and reduce resistance in your communication so you can become more persuasive in your dialogue to help people get what they want. And Zig Ziglar has always said it the best way, and I'll never forget it. The first time he said it, it embedded it into me. When you help enough other people get what they want, you can get what you want. And that is absolutely a servant's attitude. And learning this information is extremely powerful. It's to me, it's very motivational and honoring to the other person. However, you have to put yourself aside a little bit. And remember, 55% of the people are visual, 30% of the people are kinesthetic, and then 15% of the people are auditory. I'm going to open it up for a few questions right now. Somebody has some thoughts and suggestions.
Is there by any chance some kind of correlation with the different male versus female?
No, nor is there a correlation between left-handed and right-handed people.
Okay.
So when you're tying it to a real estate presentation, how do you, when somebody's auditory, do you have anything that's visual, or you just go through it?
If I happen to know, that's a great question. So Jose, if I happen to know that you are more leaning towards an auditory, I'm going to leave out a lot of the graphics. I'll have some, but what we want to do is sit down and discuss what really matters. And through our discussion, we're going to find out what it is that you need and what it is I can provide. And it's about those things we're going to talk about.
And you find out whether they are kinesthetic, auditory, or visual by pre-qualifying them. Like on the phone, can you do that, or it has to be off the person?
You start by, it's called in NLP terms, it's called calibrating. In other words, it's called assessing. Okay, you sort of assess it, you sort of get a feel for it, so you can see what it is that you need to present and how that's going to work out. I mean, it's not going to be, you're not going to be able to hit it 100% of the time. Okay, for the most part, after you get with them a little bit, it does take a little bit of time with the individual, specifically face to face. This is why face to face, or even the Zoom encounters, are so important. Once you begin to identify their cues, if there are visual, emotional, or auditory, you'll begin to fashion the majority of your presentation in that order. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to do all auditory and not let them see anything. It doesn't mean that you're not going to touch into the emotional aspect and all you're going to do is talk. Okay, you're going to touch into those other parts, but the majority of the time, you're going to want to speak in that auditory sense. Now, this works incredibly well when handling objections. Incredibly well in handling objections. So take what I just said about what people are and encounter the objection where it happens. Okay. I'm not going to get into the deep surgical, the doctor asked, the deeper levels of this. You first have to get a concept that this exists and learn how to use it. And once you learn how to use this skill, there are levels that you can go into perform some really cool surgery techniques. For example, somebody happens to be a very strong visual person and they give you an emotional response to an objection. So they're visual and you ask them, would you like to go ahead and move forward? Well, I don't feel like right now is the right time for us. Isn't it interesting that a dominant visual person is now giving you an objection from an emotional sensory? This is more advanced stuff, okay? But just take it for, you can do some things to maneuver that objection around. But however, if they happen to be feeling something and you respond immediately with visual, you're discounting what is happening here. So however they perform and however they deliver the objection to you, handle it in that sensory preference. So again, watch the nonverbal cues. I just need some time to think about it. The head movement went up. That's visual. I just need some time to think about it. Head movement went down. That's emotional. I just need some time to think about it. Head movement side to side. They're not saying no. They're just experiencing an auditory preference. Okay? So just because people go, well, I'm not sure, doesn't mean that they're saying no. Oftentimes, they're just having a discussion with themselves. Now, if you really want to get strategic about it, which direction did the head movement go first, then second, then third? Because then it could be auditory construction, auditory memory, auditory construction. If you really want to get serious with this stuff, these are skills that you can learn to use. Watch how they respond to a closing question. It's not normally just one. They're going to we have a habit of how we respond to questions. Okay. So let's say, for example, someone says, the question is, let's go ahead and get started. Or is this the house that you would like to purchase? And they go, well, I'm not sure. Now watch the pattern. I'm not sure. Emotional, visual, auditory. That's how this person processes their decision. It's incredible. 57% of how people communicate is nonverbal. Once you're able to sort of pick up this information, it is incredible how you can help people move towards their stated purposes or help them make the decision that now is not the right time as well. So if they have a pattern of going emotional, visual, auditory, you can simply say, once we're able to get our hands around what really matters and connect with that outcome, you're going to be able to see that pathway clearly right in front of you. So let's continue to talk about that. And they're like, yeah, okay, let's talk about that. You've just repeated their decision-making process right back to them. And they delivered it to you free from their subconscious. And they can't understand why they like you so much. Anyways, it's 9 o'clock. I have another Zoom meeting right here that I've put on hold that I need to get back to. We can continue this conversation throughout the rest of this week. I'm glad you tuned into this information. I have a lot more to share with you, and make it a great day in real estate. I got to run. I'll talk to y'all later. See ya.